This is Andrea of Declares Delight for Life. I help you put the sensible and sensible and help you declare the clutter in your life. I'm the CEO and co founder of Declares Delight for Life. Tonight should be very thought provoking on my story of multiple personality disorder. To kind of give you some context about this, is that multiple personality disorder, or also known as dissociative identity disorder, is out of severe trauma. Trauma like PTSD, like soldiers get, in war, or extreme trauma when people have really bad car accidents or hurt on the job, which I've also been through. And then there's trauma as related to people having gone through trauma, severe crimes. That's trauma. And being multiple like I am and having combined into one, I've gone through a lot of therapy and a lot of that, and I went through a lot of fire to do that. But tonight I am going to share my story because I think it's important for people to understand, because too many folks don't understand. And as a result, there's a lot of misconception about it. And I'm here to clear up the misconception. My trauma began back when I was probably very young, actually, when I was born. I was going to be used for something of religious abuse as a child, and that abuse was very severe. It started when I was a baby and went all the way up to the age of 11. It was physical, emotional, and spiritual. I'll admit, I had burns all over my body. I had all sorts of um, marks from being beaten by men and women. And I hate to say it, hopefully Facebook won't ban me, but it was a cult I came from. And I know a lot of folks don't necessarily believe in that, but that's where I came from. And I was their object of abuse. A lot of times I was not given food or water. I had to go out and work as a maid and clean homes when I was 6 and 7 to get food. And it was not very nice. And it began an eating disorder that I've lived with all my life, and became morbidly obese and weighed 494 pounds for a result of the eating disorder. And according to my therapist, all began when I was a child and having no food and having to clean homes. I had a couple people who really cared about me and gave me money, so I did have food. And if they did find my stash of food, they would take it away. It was awful. Every night, my father would take me and then would pay to have, how can I say it, sex with me every night as a child. And, you know, that was night after night as a child. Very traumatic, very much of a trauma. I mean, that was just one of many. And then, how can I say it, that, went on to further. When I, was older, they used me as something, to look up. They had a very evil God that it was out there, and they used me as the object of their, whatever. And that's all they saw me as, or what I was supposed to have been born as. And I know for you guys, it's hard to understand where this all comes from. But for me, it was a hard thing to come through myself and understand. I didn't even really know I was a multiple till I went through for some eating disorder treatment. So a few years ago, and they took me in front of a specialist in the field, the highest specialist there was, and put me in front of a camera. And he brought out all sorts of crazy things, and that it made, blanks that were in my memory, for many years. I didn't know what had happened to me in my lifetime, blanks of, lost time. I would lose time all the time. I would have blanks of my childhood. I had blanks all over the place, and there was absolutely no understanding why, or or waking up in places I did not know where I was at. And it was very confusing to me, and happened throughout the years as an adult and teenager. I did a lot of great stuff. I was a corrections officer. I led a pretty normal life as much as I could. But I had problems with men. I had lots of problems in my life. You know, thinking back to when I was even young, it was really hard. And it's really hard for me to help you understand and to realize all this. And I want you guys to understand this because I'm pouring my heart and soul out to you guys. And too many people don't have my understanding of who I am. And I would hope that you would understand that, and that, you know, that you would have understanding that people, no matter who they are or where they come from, can have a life. And believe me, I do have a life now that I have dreamed of or as closely can ever dream of. And, you know, I own a home. I have a normal car. I have as normal life as composite. I run a business. I do all sorts of wonderful things for folks. I see that life, moves on and people, see that, life is able to move. And what I love about my life is that I'm able to stand in front of you for just who I am and not what I am, and that I tell the truth. To me, that's really important in my life. It's extremely important. And if you can't tell the truth in life about who you are, whether you be a multiple personality disorder or not, as a result of trauma, then I think, you can't be truly who you are. And too many people hide behind masks in our culture or have a lot of skeletons in their closet. One thing I like to say is, I have no skeletons, and this is the last skeleton in my closet. And you know what? It feels great to be out of the closet. As my therapist would say, having no skeletons in your closet is very freeing. And I would agree. Talking to you guys and telling you my story allows me to free myself of bondage. And freeing yourself of bondage is like freeing yourself of the trauma and makes your soul free as a bird. It's kind of like the soaring of an eagle up there in the sky and reaching out towards the sun. And for me, that's how I feel. I'm not in bondage. I have no skeletons in my closet. You're there. And, thinking about my childhood, it's not, I still have a hard time with it sometimes, realizing where I'd come from and what I was born to do and what I was born to be. It was not so nice. And then when I have to go back to when I was 11, they actually were having me up on a stage, you might call it, and something was going to happen. But then the police broke in and there were hundreds of them in front. And they literally took them all away and arrested them all. And I was taken away and put in productive custody. You know, this is not such an easy thing for me to bring before you and to share with you and put my heart to you. But when I was taken away and then, sent off to a foster home that night, I literally hid under the table that first night. I hid, and she had to coax me out. I didn't know what even silverware was. I was that out of it. I'd never been taught proper manners, if you could think of that, because my life had been scurrying around and just trying to find food. And when I was trying to find food, that I didn't know what proper utensils were. She had to coach me out, and then she coached me out and sat me down, showed me what a knife, a fork, and a spoon were, and what they were for. And in turn, she says, well, here's some food for you. I got some food for you. And I wanted to hide under the table again. But she said, it's for you. You don't have to hide. You don't have to do anything that's bad. And you know what? I ate the food. It was delicious. I really enjoyed it. And then she took me to a bedroom and she says, that's my bed. She says, I asked her, what's a bed? I didn't know what a bed was at that time. And she says, that bed's for you to sleep in. To sleep in? She says, I got nightgowns for you. What's a nightgown? I don't know. A nightgown is something you sleep in. It's soft and cuddly. And I was so dirty, and I'd just come out of the hospital after they had put me there for a while to heal up all my sores and infections and everything I had. And I put on the nightgown, and she says, "You get to sleep here and have a pillow." I crawled in, and she put the covers over me. And then she gave me a teddy bear. And I love teddy bears even to this day. I mean, I have them all over the house, and you've seen some of them. And, seeing that teddy bear, and even today, reminds me of her. And I got in bed, and I fell asleep. I slept, dreamed dreams that I'd never dreamed before. It was beautiful. Beautiful dreams of like I was a princess, and I was in my own castle. But when I woke up, she was there for me. She was hugging me, giving me hugs, and she showed me out to breakfast. And when she showed me out to breakfast, she brought forth, proper food. And there again, I stared at and said, "This is for you to eat properly." And she showed me what a knife, fork, and spoon were again. And I learned. I learned how to eat appropriately. And she taught me what family life was like, what something was, quote, normal. I was in no way normal. I was shell shocked, literally shell shocked. I didn't know what life was. You know, having come from such humble, I shouldn't say humble things, very traumatic beginnings.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And I came from very humble beginnings, basically, trauma of a cult, and being used as their object of mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual abuse. I didn't feel like I had no spirituality at that time. My soul was broken, and having a broken soul is very hard thing to deal with. And I would hope that, bringing this to you tonight will give you some understanding of folks, because far too many people suffer out there and are in the closet. I am out of the closet. I would hope that you guys would see that, and that from now on, you'll look at me as somebody with courage and strength and hope and peace and love and compassion, not only for you, but other folks who dealt with trauma. And that's all this is severe trauma. Nothing more. It is not weird. It's not strange. It's just severe trauma and the mind's way of dealing with it. It literally breaks like that of glass. It goes into many pieces in order for the mind to survive. It encapsulates memories and encapsulates those memories and separates them off into different personalities. And as a result, when you unencapsulate those memories, which I went through that whole process and had several personalities, I unencapsulated all the memories. And as a result, I healed. I faced my fears. I dealt with my trauma. And as a result, the great thing about it was I'm not a multiple anymore. I'm normal, as you might say, in this world. And the great thing about being normal is you get to have a life. You learn what normal is. There is an adjustment period, and I have to admit, I'm still going through that adjustment period. But you know what? It's great to speak to you guys. It's great every night. And you are a part of me. You are a part of my tribe. I love coming to you every night. You are great people. And I think folks need to come together. And by coming together, you can support and give each other happiness. And that one can have a happy life, even if they've had a life of difficulties and challenges and trauma and whatever. Life can turn into something better. That if you're willing to face things and make different choices, like I've been able to make in my life. And as a result, I'm getting the life I want, and I will have the life I want because I'm willing to have courage. I know that all of you can have courage, and blessings to you all, and all have a good night.